Everybody, fans, welcome in. KPAY Sports, Dave Finucci and Mike Baca on the Nooch Baca show here today. Real quick show for you here this afternoon, here on kpaysports.com and our free mobile app. Our show can be found on the brand new KPAY Sports YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to that. And the audio from the show today on the Nooch Baca show will be available on SoundCloud as well. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at KPAY Sports. Mike, let's talk about some baseball information. It's an ever-changing situation by the hour in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, today we learned 2 Cardinals pitchers not identified yet have tested positive for COVID-19. That affects the Cardinals series with the Brewers. In fact, they're going to try and get those, not all those games in, but a doubleheader on Sunday. 2 Phillies personnel, not players, but personnel, tested positive yesterday. Another Marlins player yesterday. That brings the total to 18 Marlins personnel and 16 players. Dave, this is changing, like, as you mentioned, by the hour. I am becoming a little bit concerned about the rest of the season a little bit. The Players Union said, absolutely under no circumstances are we going to play in a bubble. So that needs to be clear. The owners wanted to play in a bubble. They were thinking Texas, the new stadium there. They were thinking in Florida. They were thinking in Arizona. Of course, you're talking about 3 hot spots.
There,
but they were talking about in a bubble in those locations. Now, with all these teams flying all around the country, sometimes you're in a hot spot, sometimes you're not. If one player, that's all it takes is to go to an establishment, a restaurant, and say, you know what, I'm getting out of the hotel. I have to. That's all it takes.
Yeah, and not wearing a mask, sitting in a restaurant or an establishment, and it could take that, and that's like you said, it could cause the outbreak. I thought I read, Mike, that Manfred, when the Marlins situation occurred a few days ago, maybe 48 hours ago, he was establishing the fact that he feels like they can contain the Marlins situation, and that they were expecting something like that, but we are going to march on and continue on pretty much no matter what happens. I thought that's the gist of what his message was. Now, since then, you've got the Phillies situation and the Cardinals situation. So now we're in 3 teams, which affects more than 3 teams because it affects the teams they're playing against, delays games there. It actually affects the schedule of about a third of the schedule. And the more teams that get positive tests, it just doubles the amount of affected teams.
Yeah, it is a situation that just because one team gets it, doesn't mean that it's easy to contain. And this is not easily contained at all, as we're seeing, because you're talking about guys that are infected in locker rooms, in clubhouses. Sometimes it's the clubbies that are getting, I guess in Philly's case, it was a clubby. Staff people that are in that. So you've got to disinfect those locker rooms. I read that the Yankees were like, we don't want to set foot in Philadelphia, because Philadelphia was just playing the Marlins, and we don't know what's going to happen. And all of a sudden, here we go. We got a positive test. And remember, incubation period could be 2 weeks. So there's a lot of unknowns regarding this right now. And I think they have, and I'm not a huge fan of Manfred, as I've made it clear on our KPAY Sports broadcast. But I do believe they do have contingency plans in case something like this happens. And I believe they're putting those contingency plans in place. I just don't know if they have a contingency plan for as widespread as this could become. If this starts affecting, you talked about 3 teams. If this gets to like 6, 7, 8 teams, I mean, how realistic can you expect the season to continue? And do you continue with minor leaguers?
With the extra pool of guys, the 30 pool taxi squad. I mean, the Marlins are going to have to, if they're going to resume games on Monday, they're going to have an entirely new lineup that may or may not be major league ready caliber type players against big league, major league, National League East pitching staffs that are in American League East pitching staffs that are just the Marlins will not be as competitive. So, you're talking about competitive fairness. You're talking about the amount of games that teams play to get to the postseason. I mean, if you don't have any games postponed, you get 60. If you do, we've heard that they're going to go by winning percentage. I mean, some teams may only play 50, 48 games, somewhere in there, and now you're justifying wild card playoff scenarios by winning percentage. Could be down to a matter of points. And you think a team is going to be excited to see that they lost out on a playoff opportunity by a matter of percentage points?
Well,
when they may have won more games than the other team that got in.
Well, and I look at it this way, Dave. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, these owners and these players, this is a sprint to the playoffs because that's where the money is. That's where the TV money is.
It's a full-blown pennant race as it is already. We're in a pennant race.
Yeah, and they want to get to the playoffs because that's where the TV networks will pay the money, and that condenses the field, of course. So basically, I think it's a situation where teams are going to try and win as many games as possible. They might then hold their players back in the final 2 weeks, say, you need to shelter in place because we need you for the postseason. Right. I mean, that could be a situation that we see as well. So that's why every game matters. Every game is so really important. But we wanted to come on today because this situation continues to change and
every day.
Moment
by moment. And listen, these guys want to wrap up. Major League Baseball wants to wrap up everything by the end of October. The coronavirus isn't going anywhere. It's not going to be gone by the end of October. It'll still be around. It'll be around in October when they're playing the playoffs. Can you imagine, Baca, a playoff team getting ready for game 3 of the, say, NLCS, and a guy gets a positive test? That just banged the entire game.
Yeah,
and what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Aaron Judge,
You have no way to. Right now, Baca, what they're doing is they're banging the entire game for that entire team. Now, that is not an option in the postseason on a scheduled Fox postseason broadcast for that amount of money. So
it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be.
If it has to be, then listen. How long are you going to delay it? Right now, the teams aren't playing in 4 or 5 days. So what are you going to do? You're not going to make it. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get it done by the end of October. It's going to flow into November when, if even one playoff team gets one positive test, it will push everything back.
Here's a thought, and I hope MLB has thought of this, that when we do get to the postseason, they somehow have a way to play in a bubble. And I know the players union is adamantly against that. The owners wanted a bubble, but if you put these teams, you've got to put them in a bubble, because if you can put them in a bubble, then you at least can contain their movement. You're not out in the public. And you look at how the NBA is handling it. Yeah, they've had a few stragglers, but they're having no positive tests. That's why I don't think college football is going to be played this year. I don't think NFL is going to be played. And that's why I think baseball's having trouble, because it's the mobility of these teams and how everyone is moving around. You have to stay in one place.
The field is irrelevant. The fan base is irrelevant. If you put 2 teams on a neutral baseball field for a 5-game series or a 7-game series, and they don't leave that area and everybody's tested going in, listen, the players are going to have to do it. I mean, on a postseason series, they're not committing the reason they didn't want to play in a bubble for the season, Baca, is because they didn't want to be away from their families that long. So,
I agree with that.
But at the end of the day, the players union is going to have to say, hey, you know what, for a 7-game series, you're going to have to be by yourselves. I mean, you have to go to a bubble and you know, the families just can't be with you. So it's the postseason. This is what we're getting paid for. You got to show up and do your job. And that's what's going to have to be. I mean, I don't see how you can move around the same way during the regular season, during the playoffs, and contain that thing and expect to get the games in on a calendar and on a schedule that Fox and everybody and whoever else is paying for those baseball games to be broadcast.
moving along, what do you
Yeah.
think of your last couple days? The Giants showing some gumption, my friend. Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
Mike Yastrzemski.
Well, it was a great comeback a couple nights ago, trailing by 3 or 4 runs and tied it up in the 8th on a Donovan Solano 3-run bomb. And Yastrzemski walks it off to win it 7-6 in the bottom of the 9th on a splash hit into McCovey Cove. Great win for a young team like that against a Padres team that was really looking sharp. They were 4-1 coming into that game and had a lead on us. Great little comeback. Again last night, down 4 runs, came back to tie it, but then lost it in that extra inning situation with a runner at second base and kind of got out of hand there in the top of the 10th. But another nice little comeback, which you don't really expect from this young group. So I was excited to see that squad battle twice, and you know, we're 3-4 so far. So you know, they're battling, and Belt and Longo are back. So you know, continue to run the guys out there and see what happens. And meanwhile, you guys went down into Houston since we last talked, and 2 huge games that had a lot of colorful situations going on between those 2 squads. And you got to be thrilled with after dropping 2 to the Giants, went down to Houston and beat the Astros twice. So you got to be pretty excited.
I'm very excited. Very excited. I'm happy for a couple of reasons. First, winning. I wanted to win both. Springer, Altuve, and Bregman combined to go 0 for 21. Serves them right. That was fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, and then Joe Kelly, I was urging the Dodgers to buzz the tower. Joe Kelly not only buzzed the tower, he repeatedly buzzed the tower.
Yeah.
And then he let them know that he buzzed the tower. The Dodger fans, listen, Joe Kelly broke Hanley Ramirez's rib in 2013 with a fastball in Game 1 of the NLCS. He was public enemy number 1. 2018 with the Red Sox, he shuts down the Dodgers out of the Red Sox bullpen. Dodger fans couldn't stand him. Last year, he serves up the season-ending grand slam to Howie Kendrick in Game 5 of the NLDS, and Dodger fans were like, this guy finds ways to end our season. He's killing us.
Yeah.
In one 5-minute stretch, Joe Kelly went from a Dodger who was kind of like, okay, to we love Joe Kelly. Let's build him a statue and let's make a bunch of shirts that demonstrate our support for Joe Kelly. Dodger fans love Joe Kelly right now.
This guy, I mean, you would have never thought he'd be the guy that would come in and do that type of thing, right? This guy wasn't even on your team in 2017 when this Astros sign stealing scandal occurred. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think he understands as a baseball player, the Astros didn't just cheat the Dodgers, they cheated everybody. I mean, it was everybody along the way in the American League, and everybody they played. But so he understands it. He gets it as he's not happy with what they did as a ball player and stood up for your team in a moment like we talked about on our first show. That was, you were up 5-1, and he could afford to do something like that.
Well, you could almost see in his head, in his mind, he went 3-0 on Bregman, and he took the throw back from the catcher, and he kind of looked at the scoreboard, and he kind of went, you know, like, this might be the time.
Yeah.
And he
opportunity.
He threw a 96-mile-an-hour fastball that probably broke the signage behind home plate, 5 feet behind Bregman. Then he throws a bunch of nasty sliders at 90 at Correa's dome. And then he strikes out Correa, and he nice swing and get out of here.
And the bench is empty now. Now Robert's got a game suspension that he already served, but Kelly's out for 8 games because of it. And that, my God, Baca, that's like a 1/6 of the season. I mean,
22 games.
At the end of the day, though, I think Dodger fans are okay with it because of what he did, and he stood up and sent the message. You know, with the expanded rosters, you guys got plenty of arms to cover that Kelly situation. But you know, you guys moved right along and went out and beat Arizona last night. So, you know, you're right. You're off on the right track, and Corey Seager is just tearing the cover off the ball for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, Bellinger can't hit right now. Mookie had some big hits. You know, I watched 3 innings of Mookie Betts last night, and the first thing that came to my mind is, how in the world does Boston not pay him? How in the world do you not pay that guy?
Yeah.
He basically took an extra base on a ball in the dirt. He hit a pop-up into right center and turned it into a double. And then there's a base hit into right center, and he plays it perfect by playing a great angle and holding the guy to a single. And he did that in 3 innings. And I'm like, he does all the little tiny things that baseball players are supposed to do. And Dodger fans, I mean, I can't believe I get to watch this guy in his prime in a Dodger uniform. And
for a long time.
I'm thrilled, man.
It's a special thing. He's a great player. But one real quick thing as we almost wrap up, we got a few more minutes here on this episode of the Nooch Baca show. One thing I want to talk about real quick, Baca. We were watching that game. You guys went extras last night, 3 extra innings against the Astros to beat them. But we're talking about a situation, Baca, that with a runner at second base and nobody out. I mean, it is unfathomable to me that these guys cannot lay down a sacrifice bunt anymore. In the major leagues, this is part of the game. This is part of the game that has been around for over 100 years and has literally evaporated amongst Major League Baseball teams. The logical thinking, Baca, in that situation, and I know this because I used to work at USA Baseball, you know that, and this is an international baseball rule, okay? They've been playing that way in international baseball games for years. And in that logical situation, everybody bunts the guy to third with nobody out, and you've got a higher statistical chance to get the runner in from third base in numerous ways, more so than a base hit from third than you would from second, okay? That is the statistical data. That is the logic. That is the everything that we've known about the game for years. And these teams have gone away from it. It's evaporated. It's let's swing away and try to get a base hit. And both teams failed in the 10th. They got a run in the 11th. They failed in the 12th again, swinging away. It's unbelievable.
To me, I just completely don't understand it. I mean, listen, I'm on Twitter all the time with Dodger fans, and there are people. The famous line from a few of my Dodger friends are, it shows a Thanksgiving dinner where they're getting ready to cut the head off a turkey, and they call it sacrifice for a reason.
Yeah.
But the problem is with that thinking is the sacrifice to give up the out makes it statistically, as you mentioned, easier to score the run from third with 1 out than having a runner at second and hitting a pop-up to shortstop because you were swinging out of your ass. I don't understand.
I don't get it. You can score so many more ways from third, a wild pitch, an error, numerous ways. It just what it's boiled down to, Baca, is what has happened, and it's actually only happened in the last 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years ago, when the Giants were winning World Series 10, 12, and 14, the sacrifice bunt was still in play. It was still being used.
Yes.
It is not anymore. Here's why. Baseball is home run derby now. It's home runs and strikeouts. It's swing with the fences, swing away, and you barely ever even see a well-executed hit and run. So it is just, the problem is the managers don't call it anymore. I'm sure there are a lot of managers that would do it, Baca. They don't believe in their hitters' ability to lay down a bunt. Can you believe that?
Well, the analytics.
Big league hitters that don't practice it, don't know how to do it, and never done it. That is unfathomable to your man, Mr. Tommy Lasorda, who would have a heart attack every time he watches these games with the Dodgers runner at second and nobody out, and they're swinging away.
Yeah, and it's an analytical thing, Nooch. I mean, the analytics say, remember, watching Moneyball, Billy Beane was saying, If a team wants to give you an out, say, thank you very much. Let them bunt. We're not bunting. We are not going to bunt. And I'm sorry. I watched the Giants win 3 World Series in 5 years, and they bunted.
Playing small
Every
ball.
time they played
Playing
small
small
ball.
ball.
Every single time the Giants needed to get a bunt down, they got a bunt down, and it led to a run, and they'd win a game 4-3 because they knew how to play small ball. I've watched Chico State win 9 regional championships in a 20-year stretch because we lay down a bunt in a tie game in the 7th inning that mattered, and we end up winning that game.
Yep.
Because what you do with a bunt is you put pressure on the defense.
Yeah, they could throw it down the line.
They could throw it away.
They could do anything with it.
Also, you lay the bunt down, you get a runner to second with 1 out. It puts a lot of pressure on that defense on a ground ball hit in a hole, hit to a backhanded side of a shortstop. Is he going to field it and eat it? A ball hit in the hole between first and second that could get the runner to third, that may get the guy who hit it a base hit. So then you got runners to the corners. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense to me why bunting is not more part of baseball. I do not get it.
The one last thing I'll say about it, Baca, that's interesting to me is that if you were leading off the 10th inning in normal situations, right, without the runner at second base, let's just say we're going back to a normal play where you don't know how long the game's going to last, okay? Let's say in the top of the 10th inning, a Dodger leads off the top of the 10th with a double in the gap, okay?
Yep. All right.
Now your thinking would be, gee, well, he just got a double in the gap. We might let's maybe bunt that guy over to third. Because it's hard to get another base hit in consecutive base hits. I mean, guys only get base hits 1 every 3 times they bat, or 4 times. So if the next guy up in the lineup has 2 or 3 hits on the night, what are his chances of getting 3 or 4 hits? I mean, he's going to continue. So your thinking is, man, wow, we just put one in a leadoff double in the gap. Let's get the guy over to third. Now in this situation, Baca, you're given a leadoff double. Here you go. We're putting a guy at second base for you. Why do you change your mindset? I don't understand it. Why you're still swinging away again?
And think about this. Think about this. You got a guy at second, nobody out. You can score a run without getting a hit.
Right.
You can score a run without getting a hit.
Sac fly.
A bunt and a bunt. You get a guy to third with 1 out. He scores on a wild pitch, a pass ball, a balk, a sac fly, a ground ball hit in the hole, a
grounder in the hole.
I mean,
none of
balk,
those things get the guy home from second, Baca. None of those things get the guy home from second. All of them get the guy home from third. If your first batter swung away and happened to just hit a foul pop up and he's out because he was swinging away.
It's the thing I do not understand. It's the thing I do not understand with the analytical mindset. And I know that the number. And the thing is, Giants fans better get used to it because I saw it the other night in a tie game in the bottom of the ninth. The Giants, in the game that they lost, it was 6-6 in the bottom of the ninth. They got the leadoff man on, and Dubon was up. And Kruko and Kuiper called for the bunt. And Dubon showed the bunt late. He got there, and the pitch was coming, and he kind of showed it and pulled the bat back. And Kruko goes, that's way too late to get the bunt down. Very next pitch, he swings from the soles of his feet and hits a lazy fly ball to right. Useless. Totally useless. Now, Bochy would have forced that kid to bunt. Kapler is an analytical guy with Zaidi running things. There's no bunt. That the Giants fans better learn that in this new regime, and it's one of the things I cannot stand about the analytics, is they take away the short game, and the short game will win you championships. Giants, Royals, they all win championships because of the short game. But,
yeah, we'll continue to discuss it more, Baca. Yeah. That's going to wrap up today's Nooch and Baca show on our baseball update. It is, one other topic we're going to get to soon, Baca, as we watch more baseball in the COVID era here and today's day and age game. The shift is being used more than I've ever seen in my life, and it'll drive you crazy to watch games in which, and then we're not going to talk about this today, but it's something for next show. It'll drive you nuts when your shift is on and it doesn't work. and a guy hits a routine double play ball to the second baseman or the shortstop, and you have your defense on the other side of the field. You'll lose your mind.
Hey, you ever seen Rich Hill? Rich Hill, he was like, he would turn around and he would utter some words that would have the nuns at the Catholic schools. He'd be saying Hail Marys for 16 weeks.
But the batters love it. They get a base hit out of something they would have hit into a double play. They're all smiling, they're running and laughing, going to first. They're literally laughing.
Yeah,
I've seen guys hit a ground ball that would have been a double play into a hole opposite a shift, and as they're running to first, they're smiling and laughing. Oh, man, that's the Nooch Baca show for today. Thanks for tuning in, Mike.
Yep.
Or being with me again. And hey, have a great weekend watching the games. We'll be back next week, and I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Sounds good, Nooch. Have a good one, bud.
Bye-bye.